Hello, my name is Julio Enel and I'm a naturalist at Walter B. Jacobs Memorial Nature Park, which is one of Caddo Parish parks. Welcome to Let's Get Creative workshop. Today we're going to make a Christmas wreath with magic model. I used metallic acrylic, green, red, copper, and gold. And normal acrylic, burnt umber. I'm going to mix it with some of this later. The brushes are two brushes, a medium size flat head and a small flat head, and a glue gun to glue everything together, some mint cloves, a rolling pin, and a shadow box to mount it in. You don't have to have the shadow box. You can just put a string and hang it if you like. You will see at the end, whichever way. And a hard plate. We're going to cut it and use it as the basis of the wreath. I think this is all we need. Let's begin. Okay, we will start doing the oak leaves. I picked up an oak leaf, a big one and a small one from outside, and I traced both of them on a craft paper, and then I cut them. And now we're going to do the 8 big oak leaves. Here is the amount of magic model I need. Okay, I want the leaves to be more or less the same size and thickness, so I'm going to prepare the material for 4 leaves first. I'm going to divide this into 4 equal pieces, and then I will do it again. There will be 8 oak leaves, 4 on each side. So I put the leaf on the mold, and I don't want the mold to be really very thin so it won't break easily later on when it dries. And I trace the leaf on the mold. I put dots because you can't draw lines. It stretches the material, the mold underneath, since it is too soft. So just put dots, and then either use your X-Acto or your spatula or small knife. I use my X-Acto because that's the best one that cuts. Start cutting from the dots. It's like connecting the dots. And you really have to press the X-Acto or whatever you're cutting with. And don't pull the material until it really separated from the whole piece, because it stretches. So you lose the shape of the leaf. Try not to pull it. Make sure it is separated before you pull it. By the way, the size of the leaf is around 2.5 inches. After cutting the leaf, I try to get rid of the discrepancies on the edges. I want the edges really smooth, and I prefer to use my fingers to make everything, the lobes and the grooves, round. Uh, uh, there's nothing pointy on this leaf, so I try to get the grooves also round with my fingers. If you just push it a little bit, it will make it just the way you want. After you correct the edges, make them real smooth, it will be done. And then we have to put the veins, the midrib, and the uh, veins that go to the lobes. Don't cut it through. Make sure you're not cutting your leaf through. Use something dull. I used my spatula, not the X-Acto or knife, because I don't want to cut through. Now we're going to start making our acorns. I use my spatula to draw the line where the cap begins. I will try to make it look like the real one by squeezing the nut part, the bottom part a little bit. And then I will use my X-Acto to give the texture of the cup, which look like tiny triangular figures. You can use anything that has a sharp edge, tip of a small knife, uh, or sharpen a pencil. And you can add a little stalk from a twig. You can cut a tiny piece from a twig and just stick it to the cap part, and it will stay there. They don't have to be the same size. We need 16 of them, 8 on each side of the wreath. Okay, we have finished making oak leaves and acorns. Now we're going to start making holly leaves and holly berries. Here is an easy way to draw a holly leaf on a craft paper, and then you're going to um, cut it off with scissors and trace it on your mold, just like we did with the oak leaves. These leaves are also around 2.5 or 3 inches at the longest, and we're going to make also 8 of them, 4 on each side. Okay, after cutting it off, we're going to smoothen the edges of the leaf again, and we're going to make the pointy parts really pointy, like almost like a pin, as in the real holly leaves. The tips are really skinny, not round or blunt. And we're going to add the veins of the leaf on this one too. Just make sure you're not cutting it through. If you use a blunt tool instead of a knife or an X-Acto, you won't cut through. So we're done with the leaves. 8 holly and 8 oak, 4 on each side for each kind. So walnut's shell is not smooth, and there are some squiggly lines on it. And so we're going to put those lines. Don't make straight lines like porcupine. They're really curvy, veiny looking lines. Okay, we're going to make 8 hazelnuts. Hazelnuts are rounder. They have a pointed end, and they also have a very almost obscure cap line. Okay, now we're going to do the ribbon. Uh, there will be 2 big, 2 small parts, and then the middle part and the dangling parts. So I'm going to cut 2 small, equal size of 2 small, 2 big pieces of this. Try not to make this ribbon parts too thin, so they won't collapse and they will stand up. So I left them a little bit thicker, like this. Okay, now the middle part. Okay, I'm going to prepare a layer of magic mold to make the reef base sturdy because this paper plate is not sturdy enough. And the diameter uh, of the reef is from one outer end to the other 8 inches, and it is 1.5 inch wide. So I'm going to just prepare a layer to cover that. Okay, I used glue gun to glue the magic mold to the paper underneath, and I stretched the edges with my fingers to make sure the magic mold covers the paper underneath. After arranging the leaves, the ribbon, and the walnut and the hazelnuts on the wreath, I started gluing them. So I start with the ribbon on top, and then I keep putting the glue on the wreath base and sticking the leaves the way I want. It glues really fast, so you have to be careful not to break or pull back. And each leaf, next leaf, goes underneath the previous one. We're going to paint the leaves to metallic green before we do anything else. And now I'm painting the nuts at the bottom, the walnuts and hazelnuts, with metallic gold. But it is not just the paint. I diluted it with water because I want it a little bit runny so it can accumulate in the crevices that we made on the shells of walnuts and hazelnuts. Afterwards, I'm going to add some copper for the hazelnuts to make them a little bit reddish like they are in the nature. And now I'm going to paint the ribbon with metallic red, and after it dries I will add some gold to some part, kind of like to the crevices on the ribbon. I decided to paint the braided cord in gold. I'm also touching a little bit of gold on some parts of the ribbon, not everywhere, but just the curves and the crevices. Now I'm going to paint the holy berries and then the acorns separately and wait until they dry before I glue them onto the wreath. And I'm going to paint one side of the holy berries and then wait until that side dries and then turn the bottoms and paint the unpainted sides. And I will paint 24 holy berries, uh, 12 on each side. And now I'm going to paint the acorns. It has two different colors. The nut part will be gold, and the acorn cup will be darker. I will mix it with a burnt umber. So it will be burnt umber and the gold mixture for the cup, just gold for the nut part. Now I'm going to paint the acorn cups, mixing gold, metallic gold with burnt umber to make that part a little bit darker to match the real acorn. Since the tip of the real acorns are a little bit darker and there are some darker brown streaks on the shells, I'm trying to put those, I'm touching a little bit to the shells uh, and making the tip a little bit darker by using the same mixture. Uh, I'm mixing gold with burnt umber. Now I'm going to do the highlights on hazelnuts. For hazelnut highlights, I'm going to mix metallic copper and gold. And now I'm going to lighten up the uh, color of the walnuts a little bit. For this, I'm mixing acrylic yellow and gold, diluted with water a little bit. I want to add some highlights to oak leaves with diluted copper and gold. Try to give some autumn colors. We're done with the leaves. Now we're going to glue uh, acorns and holly berries on the leaves. We have completed the wreath. I'm going to mount mine in a shadow box, but you don't have to. If you like, you can just put a nice string and hang it. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed doing your Christmas wreath. See you next time.